So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants. It's our pleasure to welcome you to our webinar. The video is going to be recorded, so you can review it at your leisure. Also, as for all our webinars, you'll find a question box. So if you want to drop a question, don't hesitate throughout the session. And we'll do our best to take a couple of questions at the end of the session if the time allows. So the topic of today is to have a focus on the growing importance of payment in modern airline retailing, looking at the opportunity it presents and the forecast that we envisage. And I'm going to be actually discussing that with a few eminent guests. So the webinar will be in three parts. The first one will be about reminding some context and understand where we are coming from. The second part is about where the airlines stand today, and we'll have testimony in that sense. And then we are going to look into the future about what to do on the way forward, or what can be done, sorry. So I'd like to kindly ask my guests to appear. And I'm delighted to introduce Keith Wallis, who is Managing Director, Customer and Digital and Distribution at Air Canada. Priyanka Ralhan, who is a payment expert at McKinsey. Schilb, who is Head of Payment at Lufthansa Group. And Yanik, Director Distribution at IATA, and I'm in the same team as Yanik. So thank you, everybody. And I'm going to start with Yanik, and I'll see you a bit later in the session. So Yanik, can you tell us a bit what has been the journey for Modern Airline Retailing? And also, how did you see throughout basically this journey, and what has been triggering this basically the appearance and the emergence of payment in this journey?
Of course I can, Thierry. Yeah, I'll give you a bit of background, because it's quite interesting that the way payments, let's say, crept up on the agenda to become a primary focus now in many of the leading airlines. So I would say the journey goes back quite a few years now. A dozen people in the room in 2011. Some of you may remember Resolution 7X7, the NDC resolution adopted by the IATA conference in 2012, the first NDC industry standard 2015. Then came One Order, complement to NDC on the order part in 2017. And also, some of you may remember we had a leaderboard, 20 leading airlines who committed to a target of 20% NDC by 2020. So there were the front runners in this. And at the same time, there was a first McKinsey report published in 2019, which gave the first idea of the size of the prize. In other words, value creation from as airlines move into this journey to airline retailing with full offers and orders. And already there, this is the first time actually, we had a first little lead on payment creeping up as one of the areas of value creation. At the same time, 2018 to 2020, that's when these leading airlines started to see the first benefits of value creation through the first steps in the journey. In this case, it was through NDC, and that's the same time as COVID appeared. So it was, well, as you can imagine, it was a very challenging time. But the really good news there was that as we started to prioritize all our activities, given the resources and the constraints all of us were under financially during COVID.
Very quickly, what happened is that the airline
continue working on these standards because they remain a strategic priority for us. And that, combined with what happened around all of us, the technology sector in particular, just after, well, during and just after COVID, is that it all accelerated through 22, 23. And the last point in this journey is kind of a snapshot of where we are today, which is that over the last 18 months, the whole vision has shifted from a tactical NDC deployment to the end vision of a world of 100% offers and orders, which is the only way for airlines to become retailers, true retailers, to achieve true customer centricity. So a massive shift in a more strategic vision here. So payment in particular, just let me talk 2 seconds about my own experience. I was, for quite a few years, I was area commercial manager looking after several countries for a very large airline in Europe. And we had lots of targets, revenue targets, of course, but we had cost of sale targets. And we had distribution costs, we had payment costs. But surprisingly, payment costs were there, but they were not on our radar, in the sense that they were not a lever that we could use, both because we didn't have the means to exploit this lever from a technical capability point of view, but I would say even more importantly, payment was for the finance folk, typical kind of silo. Now, as we see the airlines embark on this journey, particularly with NDC as a first step, moving to API connectivity, the payment opportunities start to arise. In 2022, we visited one very large airline. And we could see as IATA, kind of our role is to do a little bit ahead of the game. We could see that there was something here to do with payment. And it just didn't click. Just didn't click. A year after, however, that airline, they got it. They were full on. And they said, Yanik, we've got a 3-year business case of tens of millions of value creation payment locked into our 3-year business plan. And actually, they're now saying that their payment costs are higher than their distribution costs. So it's really starting to come on the radar, Thierry, as something that is integrated in distribution. At the same time, what we did in 2022, we delivered 2 studies. It's a big word. One in collaboration with Edgar Dunn, who helped us identify the industry cost of payment, around 20 billion. And a second one with McKinsey, and Priyanka here will talk about it more in a few seconds, which took that and said, right, based on where we are today, the cost, but also, really importantly, the revenue opportunities, because greater customer centricity in payment is where you're going to get the most benefits. They worked on saying, well, there's potential value creation opportunity of $14 billion here, depending on different strategies. Airlines may choose, of course, each of them individually. But also what they noted, the risk of value destruction, I'm sure Priyanka will talk about it, if you do nothing, there's a big risk here in this area as well. So these 2 studies really helped set the scene, give some areas, some pointers to airlines to look at value creation in the area of payment. And we've been sharing this with our distribution and financial advisory councils as we work with the airlines across IATA. And with both of these groups, in other words, we're trying to bring the silos together, distribution and finance, we're working with them on some considerations from a payment strategy point of view. What are the levers, not just to reduce cost, but more importantly, through better customer satisfaction, to increase conversion, to increase reach, etc., to be more dynamic. And you'll hear more about that from my colleagues. And finally, on this point, Thierry, it's just that what we're saying, what I think demonstrates that things are really materializing is, again, leading airlines are starting to bring the distribution and the payment function together because they see that's a great lever to use.
Yeah, thank you, Yanik. And I guess we did the same, right? Because my team joined Modern Airline Retailing, so your team 6 months ago. So we are walking the talk, as one say, as well, right? And we will go a bit into that. So can you tell us from, let's say, the many conversations you are having with the industry, where do you think that we are at this moment, and basically what do you hear the industry and where this is going? Because as you highlighted, payment is still obviously very important for a finance function, but it's now reaching out other departments. So it's not or, but it's and, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Thierry. I can't help but get excited when I talk about this journey, particularly as we've got a week with lots of industry meetings this week in Geneva. So I've just spent 2 days on our offer and order forum with 130 airlines and technology providers, talking about the readiness of players for this end game of offers and orders. And generally speaking, there's a consensus that there's definitely movement. Tech providers are saying that airlines are more mature than they were a year or 2 ago in their RFIs and RFPs going to market. And also more generally, again, this is like the general journey to offers and orders, there's been quite a few announcements. I mean, you're aware there's been a massive push in the US with American Airlines, what they announced last year, and a very strong push here. And even a few weeks ago, Delta announcing that they're embarking on the journey to retailing with NDC. So all 3 big US carriers, including United now, are definitely embarking on this journey. 2 weeks ago, talking about the end game offers and orders, BA announced a partnership with Amadeus on a retailing platform with offers and orders. Turkish Airlines have announced that they're investing significantly in this area. Air France KLM also last year announced kicking off a project to really go into depth of this offer and order world of tomorrow. And you know that Finnair, of course, have been very bold on their objectives. And finally, two more things actually. One is that last night, Sabre announced their new Sabre Mosaic platform, again offering airlines modular approaches to offer and order management towards this end game. And we've had 16 technology providers publicly share their involvement in this journey. So the whole journey to offers and orders is definitely taking off. It's got strong momentum. Even today, on this webinar, there are 450 plus people registered for this webinar. More than 10% say they've started the journey to order management. This is not NDC or offer part, but started to order management, which is, again, demonstration of the momentum. So, what I want to just close on these points, Thierry, if that's okay, is that it's been, I'd say, a long journey. We're definitely seeing that everyone's got the end vision in place today. There's really good momentum and acceleration, and payment is a critical lever in this. The leading airlines see it one of the key areas of value creation, again, from a customer centricity point of view, and the savings, there are cost savings there, of course, but revenue is certainly going to be the big opportunity here. And I think that the best demonstration of that is going to be in the next 45 minutes, as we have two airlines and a consultant who are going to demonstrate to us in practice what this means. So, Che, thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to just put things into context, and back over to you.
Thank you very much, Yanik, and thank you very much for all this context, and thank you, and wish you a good day. Priyanka, I'd like to continue with you, and actually, as a good day, and as Yanik was mentioning, that we, our companies have been collaborating on two studies, the one in 2019 and then thereafter in 2022. Can you tell us a bit, probably two aspects? What triggered or prompted basically in McKinsey this interest to further explore payment and the opportunities and potential risk, but the opportunities mainly that it presents? And if you can also walk us through a bit what were the main findings of the 2022 study.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Thierry. So on the first one, what really triggered this? I think there are three main points. The first point, which Yanik also spoke at length, was because at the time of 2019, when we did the overall retailing opportunity, we realized that payments is going to be one of the key levers to achieve the overall opportunity. The other 2 points, I think, are more not from just the airlines perspective, but broader from the payments perspective. The changes that we were seeing in the overall payments industry, not just in airlines, but across all verticals. The first one there is actually change in the customer behavior, right? So we see that with the growing age of technology, increasing customer demands and expectation, customers these days really want inclusive payment methods, where they want all sort of payment methods at one place. The adaptation and comfortability with digital payments is really increasing. Customers these days are even comfortable making a digital payment for high value transaction. They want everything end to end at one place, which is not just true for our retail travelers and retail customers, but also for business and corporate travelers. They want everything at one place. So because there were a lot of things that were changing from the customer side. The second, which also reciprocates what we see from the customer perspective, is also seeing in the industry and the market perspective. There were a lot of emergence of different form of payment methods in the countries across the globe, whether it is like digital wallets, whether it is like real-time payments, and so on. So all sort of payment methods were emerging in. There were a lot of encouragement and push from the local governments and regulators to provide local payment methods to the customers to enable them and make payment. And third, I think also part of this is we were seeing some changes in the overall payments value chain. Earlier, it was very fragmented, but with time, we were also seeing a more of convergence, which was happening in the payments value chain. So what really prompted? One, because of the overall retailing opportunity. Second, a lot of shift in the customer behavior. And third, a reciprocated shift in the industry perspective. Now, if I look at what were the main findings at a very high level, I think that the fact is that payments is important. It is quite complex. It has a cost attached to it, but if it is done correctly, it can add a lot of value. So at a high level, this is what I feel is a real insight that we got from the report. Now, why payment is important, right? I think in a very simple language, when we looked at the overall customer journey end to end, if anybody wants to travel, be it a retail traveler or a corporate traveler, payments actually touches 10 different touch points in the overall journey. It starts from booking a ticket, booking an ancillary service, booking a cab ride to the airport. It also helps in the in-flight entertainment and so on. So it is quite important. When we looked at the data back then, we also realized that payments has a massive cost. Just the payment contributes 3% of the overall revenue or the overall value that airlines are making. And 3% is substantial, right? It is quite complex because it has multiple stakeholders in the value chain. And what's also not working really well is that airlines is taking the payments and the value for everything. And then part of this, it is not really keeping it with itself, but passing it on, which is basically the taxes and all the fees. So they're not really keeping it for themselves, paying the payments part of the cost and passing it on the other regulator. So that's why it's very complex. It has a cost. It's quite important. Now, what we really see in terms of how can we really create value and what is the main impact? The first one, again, I would reinforce that it is important to achieve the overall 40 billion opportunity that we have from the retailing part. Now, second, if done properly, payments can actually lead to a value of 14 billion in addition to the retailing opportunity. And there are two aspects to it. One on the revenue side, which is mainly driven by our retail traveler, and the other one is mainly on the cost side, which is more or less driven by a corporate traveler. Now, what is the point in terms of the retail traveler? The first thing is that the revenue will increase organically as the customer outreach will increase and go beyond typical regions. As people start to travel more, the per capita income increases, especially in the emerging markets. It provides a substantial value to airlines because people will travel more and there would be an organic increase in the revenue. Second, which we have seen, and I think this emerged also post-COVID, and because of all the dynamics that's happening in the industry overall and the overall market, where things keep on changing at a click, right? We need to provide a very flexible exchange and return systems to the customer. Sometimes we have heard that customers do not really book tickets because they are not sure. But if you really provide a system where they can easily exchange and return the ticket, they would be even willing to book a ticket in advance. Third is basically how can you increase your revenue based on ancillary services? And some of the data that we have looked at, ancillary service, up to 10% of it is actually being paid by co-branded cards. So if done properly, this 10% can even go further. And last but not least is actually how can you increase value from loyalty programs, right? You need to increase value and miles by collaborating with other partners and so on. But if you increase this, all of these four together, it can really increase value, and maybe around 8 to 9 billion is what we estimated back then in 2022. Now, what is really from the cost perspective, as I said, it's more relevant for business, for B2B, for corporates. But the first part there is that how can you, so currently all the corporate payments are done mainly by cards. So how do you ensure that the payment methods for B2B has a fair mix of cards and a more cost-efficient payment methods? Like back then we explored how can you have a very simple account payable, right? Where you have all the bills and you just pay directly after a fixed number of time and get it directly debited from the customers, from the corporate's account. Then second, how can you also revisit the terms for some of these co-branded cards and also expand your acquirer base where you have the Forex transaction, because one of the most important component which is really adding the cost is actually your Forex. So how do you make sure that you are expanding that market and exploring other Forex providers, not just sticking with what you have a legacy for the last 10 years? So that in a nutshell, right? Why payments is important. It has a cost, quite complex, but if it's done right, it can really add a lot of value.
Yeah, thank you very much, Priyanka. And with our production team, we'll make sure to leave somehow the link of the study, right? Obviously yours and Edgarden, because I think that it has not aged at all. I mean, it's 2 years later, but it's still very, very relevant, and we really encourage the audience to go through. So basically, if I can summarize a bit for the audience, right, is the payment is probably, if I can say, the most local aspect of the relationship with the client. Why is that? Because not everybody uses the same payment instrument across the globe. Actually, they may use different payment instruments. It's changing. Probably also there's element of demographic, right? The younger age group has different habits than the older one. And as you mentioned, then you have also consumer and corporate that have probably different expectation and different means as well. So something I'd like also, if you can explain, go a bit on the, as we look back then, do nothing is always an option, as somebody said, right? So can you go through a bit what are the consequences of doing nothing?
Yeah, I think the biggest consequences that we looked at is the risk of disintermediation, right? Which will really increase if airlines do not proactively manage their payments or take control of it. Because what we also see, most of the intermediaries, they look at payments as a key hook to actually disrupt the market. So if you do not really manage the payments properly, there would be a lot of disintermediation, and that will also not lead to you to achieve the entire value of retailing. And also with going age, it will also increase the overall payments cost. So one is on the disintermediation side, and another one is also on the cost side, that whether or not you will do it, you will still have to bear the additional payment cost. So might as well do it better and get the value of it.
Okay, so quite a lot of incentive to do something, right? And there's unfortunately not a middle ground where life is going to remain good. Yeah. So thank you very much, Priyanka, for that and this excellent summary. I'd like to call now, and I'll talk to you in a bit. I'd like to call now Kai and Keith, if you could, by the magic of technology, appear. Okay. Hello, gentlemen. So quite a good setup, right? So can you tell us basically probably two things, on Yanik's point, where you guys respectively within your companies on your journey towards modern airline retailing offers and orders, and also probably a bit like Yanik did, when do you think in your company the necessity to integrate payment, and I'm going to spoil it a bit, but the necessity to integrate payment in the commercial planning and commercial function, what triggered it? When did it appear? Maybe we start with Keith.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Thierry, and thanks for the opportunity to talk with you and everybody today. So where are we on our journey? I would say we look at, let's start with NDC, which at Air Canada we look at as a necessary foundational piece for a successful modern airline retailing strategy. I would say we're quite advanced. We've got an incredibly mature NDC channel that supports not just kind of the end-to-end booking flow of buying Air Canada retailed products, but also a complete set of services that allow our travel partners to connect and service those bookings with a variety of other kind of value-added services as well. And we've been investing for years in those services, and we will continue to invest. So in terms of having a technology in place to allow our travel seller partners to come and get access to our modern retail products, I'd say our NDC journey is quite advanced. In terms of actually creating offers with modern retailing technology, I would also say we've got a long history of that at Air Canada. We were one of the first airlines to introduce fare brands, ancillary options, and we continue to iterate and innovate in that space to find new ways to bring innovative products to our customers. And it's really encouraging to see how the industry is pivoting to that, because it means more dollars in investment in modern technology will be made in order to help airlines like us unlock all of the innovative potential that we have in our product management team. And what we are now starting to focus on is that journey towards order management. And like make no mistake, this is a massive undertaking for an airline. It is incredibly complicated to unwind all of the history that lies behind PNRs and tickets and EMDs. So this will be, I think, a multi-year journey for most airlines, including us. And we are now starting to rapidly explore what is available from vendors, what other airlines are doing. I would say the most encouraging thing that I have realized over the last 6 to 12 months is that the airline community is incredibly collaborative when it comes to facing a challenge like this. So although we are very advanced in NDC and offer management, we're learning a lot from our other airline colleagues about what it takes to stand up a successful order management strategy, because it is more than just order management. It touches delivery and revenue accounting as well. So that is a multi-year project that is just starting.
Okay, so and if you can just follow up on basically when did you guys started to integrate payment in the commercial function? What triggered it basically?
It's a great point, thanks Thierry. So it was really encouraging to hear you and Priyanka talk about how payments is perhaps one of the most local features of a successful modern airline retailing strategy. And that was actually the trigger for us at Air Canada. As we were considering our NDC expansion and our offer and order strategy, we quickly realized that what we were contemplating was that we would be expanding our direct reach to our customers into countries and locales that we had never really had a direct offer for before. And what that meant was we didn't really understand what payment solutions customers in those countries wanted, how they wanted to pay, when they wanted to pay, what solutions they wanted to use, and what products they really wanted to buy. So that had traditionally been kind of outsourced by us as an airline to experts that were local in that area. And now we were considering, as we were planning out the launch of NDC around the world, entering into these markets, and we needed to make sure that we didn't just have a compelling product, but we had an efficient way for those customers in those countries to pay with their desired payment solution, which we did not have a good understanding of. So it became something that was obvious to us very early on that if we were going to be successfully launching NDC and retailing around the world, that we were going to need local payment solutions.
So somehow payment is part of the product experience of the client, right? It's not an afterthought, but has to be planned even before the launch in certain localities, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Kai, probably the same question for you. Where are you guys on the Modern Airline Retailing journey? And also what triggered in your company basically the payment function to be very close to the commercial side?
Yeah, actually, without going into too much details on where we're standing here and there, I would frame it maybe it's same like Keith has described. We are in the middle of a long transformation journey. So we have tackled at Lufthansa Group, I guess, a lot of challenges already, very successful, be it on our, let's say, on our NDC journey, where we are quite happy where we are, especially on the, I would say, everything which touches leisure. We are really a forerunner and we feel like a forerunner here, or be it on our digital services. We have just started last year rolling out our new e-commerce platform, so-called airline.com. This was the project name. So now you can see, if you really go now to our apps, how much this has developed. And we had huge disruptions last year. Now we are really going forward, both based on, I would say, a very bold and very stable organizational setup and transformation program at Lufthansa Group level, where we are really focusing on getting the right people on board, keeping them and maintaining them. I think that's key. That's the basis for, let's say, this marathon. And now what's ahead of us? So if I'm looking at the distribution topic, the NDC topic, which I just have seen, we see now the next challenges. So be it, are we really able to roll out this in the corporate environment? What needs to be done there? Or of course, on the B2C side, what else? What can we do? How we can support and enhance the physical customer experience that our people and our passengers currently feel. And I think we are touching this later on when we're talking about the current customer satisfaction. So their digital can do a lot of success. But yeah, framing it, we are in the middle of a long transformation process. And I'm feeling very happy that we at Lufthansa Group have built a very good basis, especially getting the right people and maintaining them to really reach our targets there.
Yeah, Kai, since you are talking about it, yeah, I'm going to follow up with the question. So basically, for obviously without going into commercial confidential details, but basically payment is more than a cost, right? So you have, can you describe a bit what are the features if you have a business case inside? Obviously not the quantification, but some key features. And at the same time, if you can say, have you been able to witness already some, let's say, improvement in the Net Promoter Score, in the relationship with the client? And then I will ask kindly Keith to on the same question just after you.
Okay, so first of all, I think what Keith said and what was said before, I think I heard this also in the former times or even in the last weeks, that payment can be a commodity or can be seen like payment is a commodity. It just has to work. And I think at an airline, from an airline perspective, you should not look at this. If you're a bakery, it's a commodity. Maybe you offer cash, and maybe in the US you would accept a credit card. In Germany, maybe a debit or whatsoever, and then you're good to go. Nobody mentions. From an airline perspective, this becomes a very personal thing, as Keith said, because we need to serve every single customer where he is or she is. And if there is someone who likes Alipay, then this customer should not care if he is now currently rendering a service at Lufthansa Group in Kenya or maybe in LAX, because it's the same customer. And therefore, it becomes a very personal challenge because you need to offer on the global scale personal or deliver on personal customer expectations. I think that's a key challenge there, and that we have found out that this is super important. And on your question, I think what is, let's say, a direct impact or what you can measure, I guess on a Net Promoter Score, you especially feel if you currently look at where we are. We are trying not only with payment but with our digital service to put plasters on the current disruption scenarios that we see. You will never turn the physical disruption experiences into a positive experience, but you can do a lot enhancing this and also taking away pressure from your station colleagues or even the colleagues in the aircraft, who can then focus really on the personal customer service when the digital services work. And so is payment. So it has to be an integral part. It has to work for the customer. I don't think that we will turn it into, I don't know, a happy experience if there was a long delay. But maybe the customer says, okay, cool, but at least the digital services have worked.
Okay, so I'm taking care of, right? So somebody is taking care of me. Okay, and Keith, probably on your side. So have you been able to see already from the plans you have, basically some progress that you can measure, and also maybe you use that, but are you seeing also some benefits through basically the measurement of a Net Promoter Score or loyalty or basically whatever is relevant for your company?
Yeah, I would say I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. Kai's completely right. It is absolutely a cost center, and there's an opportunity for airlines to attack it. But we look at it as almost more importantly an opportunity to generate revenue through increased share of wallet from customer loyalty, but also a real customer experience lever. So if you think about what we're doing, we are by definition making the purchase experience a bit more complicated. We're adding some complexity. We're creating options for customers to shop through. So that means they're going to be spending longer in the funnel, interacting with your product and deciding what they want to buy. What you need to do is make sure that once they've made that decision, you're not making it difficult at the very end to take their money. One, you have to make sure that the solution they want to use is there. And two, you need to make sure that experience of actually going through the process of using that payment solution that you're offering as simple and as free of friction as you can. You can actually destroy a lot of value by taking the customer all the way through that funnel and then making that last step of actually taking their money so difficult that they not only abandon cart, but they maybe never come back because it was such a bad experience. So in terms of customer experience, the success in this is not that you make it a wonderful experience. You actually make it something that they don't think about, and then they forget about right as soon as it's happened. Payments should almost disappear into the background. And that means that they feel like once they had chosen you and the product they want to buy from you, that they were able to check out and get on to the next task in their day as quickly as possible. That drives customer loyalty and high NPS scores. It's also an opportunity to generate revenue. If you do payments properly, you can, if you offer different payment solutions and split payments, you can encourage customers to, buy the right to travel with one type of payment solution and maybe add ancillaries with a different payment solution like their loyalty points. Or if you offer installment payments, maybe you can encourage customers to buy a little bit more than they normally would because it only adds $5 to their monthly fee. So you can actually get customers to buy more better quality products with the right payment solutions. And we're already starting to see that in the areas where we're doing this well, there's higher customer loyalty, higher NPS scores, even the qualitative things like opportunities to gather feedback from our customers where they talk about how they took that trip to see their grandfather because we offered installment payments and it really let them see, a loved family member they hadn't seen in a long time. Even that qualitative feedback means that we're doing something right.
So in a nutshell, we can
add one thing to that, Thierry.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
To make it very clear, what Keith is telling, what I'm telling, that sounds very nice, right? Just do it. We are on a very, very high flight level to make this very transparent. So every airline, everyone who is listening is on a completely different level. So we are. And if you look at our customers today and the pain points and the disruptions they see, they are a new customer, they are newly detected if they come to check in, if they need to buy an extra bag. If they are on board, maybe they are a new customer and need to check in again and buy. So there are no such integrated services today really available at our airlines. So even those, just do this and just offer this, let's say we call it connected experience. That's a long-term journey, and this will add additional value. So everything that we are telling here, just to be very transparent, is not yet available. And some airlines are doing better than others, but I think we all face the same challenges to integrate legacy environment, legacy processes, legacy systems and ecosystems with our new technology that we offer. Just to make this very clear, maybe it sounds too nice what we are just telling here.
No, absolutely. And if you agree, maybe at some stage in 1 year or 2 years, we'll ask, we can do a similar discussion and see where you are. But basically, we start to see a bit the two sides that Priyanka was mentioning through both of your testimonies, is that on one side, you can improve the repeat, the customer come back, the increased sales, because you offer potentially different forms of payment. The experience is nice, so they will come back. Maybe they find also the right form of payment that has the means to buy the service they want. But also the other hand, if it's not a happy experience, the customer will as well remember it and may not come back actually for certain type of services, right? So thank you very much. I'd like just to finish a bit this section. I'd like you to reflect on how let's say consumers or leisure customers and corporate customers are similar or different in terms of their expectations. Would like to start, please?
I'll jump in. Sure, why not? So yes, they are absolutely different. I'll contradict myself in a second, but yes, they are absolutely different. The corporate customer is a bit different from everything we've just spoken about because they probably have a pre-established, well set up, integrated payment solution in their corporate travel program. So you're not really talking about offering them different options or different ways to pay because they have in their travel program already established how they want to pay. Their needs are all about, how do I get transparency and accurate data on my spend so that I can track and manage my travel program. What I will say is that there are some corporate clients who are now starting to realize that their established method of payment, which is almost always a credit card, may not be, given current technology, the best way to handle payments with their airline supplier. And there are already some discussions happening about, how can we do things differently? How can we take cost out of the system for both of us? And if we're working more directly together, how can we actually give you better data, more real-time data that allows you to finally bring together all of the cost of that travel, the initial right to fly purchase, the ancillaries that you may want to include in your travel program, anything that happened after the fact that you made a change or a cancellation. How can we as the airline supply you with rich real-time data so you can get an actual real complete view of what that total cost of the journey was? I would also say that we are now starting to see more and more corporate travelers tag on a personal experience to the beginning or end of a journey, which starts to blur the lines a little bit between what corporate and leisure travel is. And we see that they may be wanting to pay for the things that are directly related to the corporate travel with their corporate method of payment, but then add on certain other things with their own personal method of payment, which introduces some complexity. But if you can get that right, there's a greater basket of revenue that you can attract.
Yeah, so basically data for the corporate is part of the product, right? So as I hear you, there's also realization about efficiency on both sides. And to your point, I think there's a term for that. I don't know if it's popular, but leisure. So the extension of your business and leisure, right? So that some employees are allowed to, on their own expense, to add services throughout their journey. Thank you, Keith. Kai, can you give us your view about similarities and differences between leisure and corporate?
Well, actually, I would add just one thing. So Keith touched it already. I think the key is that it's the same traveler, right? So you as a traveler, you have even, you travel on business or leisure. So in fact, you could say you are the same customer, but in fact you are not, because the ecosystem is treating you differently, and so are we, and so are the offers and processes that we offer, and we often lack the potential to even identify the same traveler, if it's now is he now traveling on let's say on leisure or on business. And I think in the end it comes, as Keith just said, be it leisure whatsoever, it's the same. So the need of the traveler is not so much different, but we need to adapt our ability to identify the customer or the traveler, and adapt the capabilities to make the right offer at the right time. And payment is a part of it, because we have, especially in the B2B environment, we have grown a locked-in system in the travel payment ecosystem, where we currently don't see flexibility. So you cannot use, I don't know, open banking or Alipay or whatsoever if you are a corporate traveler. Why is that? Because we have a protective system, which we need also to tackle jointly from an airline perspective. And in the end, then again, adapt it, or let's say offer it to the traveler. Because for me as a traveler, it shouldn't be a difference if I'm traveling and I want to add an additional service. Why should I not use the, let's say, contracted payment methods, even without a credit card, if I am, I don't know, somewhere traveling currently? But today that's not possible.
Okay, thank you. So clearly a need to think, obviously bilaterally between the airlines and their corporate clients, but the whole experience, right? And I think it's a thing that comes back together. So what is common is that between, let's say, consumer and corporate, it's a whole experience that is requested. Now, how the experience is shaped is different, right? Thank you. So we are going to move to the last part. So please stay with me, and I'm going to ask Priyanka to join us. Hello, Priyanka again. Hello. So we are now going to look into the way forward, right? So I think we clearly heard from Keith and Kai that airlines are working on it. They have clear sense of where to go, which is going also in the directions that you have been highlighting. I'd like to, also, since at McKinsey you have like a holistic view on let's say not only the travel and tourism market, but many markets. So what are your observations about where this is going and what are the steps forward?
Yeah, thanks, Thierry. So I would actually tweak this a little bit, right? Based on what we have heard so far and based on what we see beyond this also, I would say that, as airlines, you should see if you can answer 3 questions for you to be, say that, okay, you are ready for the future. The first one, I think, is are you really ready for the next 2 to 3 years with all the changes that we are seeing in the industry, with all the growth that we are witnessing in the industry in terms of the overall travel, and then the subsequent things which are happening. So for example, on that refunds and claims, we see a double-digit increase in the last few years. So as an airline, are you really ready to tackle all of these things very efficiently? Because this will continue to grow, and accordingly, you need to make sure that you have the entire ecosystem and operating model to make sure that you are able to tackle that. The second one, I think, is more around the partnership. So are you really exploring and evaluating different sort of partnerships to make sure that you are increasing, for example, the value for the customer? So for example, how can you increase the value of your loyalty points? Can you explore some partnership with the other, for example, the hotel chains and so on, so that you provide the more value to the customers? Can you see that, if you need to provide a local payment methods in each countries, and there are some regulations attached to each country to provide a local payment method, do you have any sort of partnership or collaboration that you can see to make sure that you can provide that local payment method, which not only helps from a customer perspective in terms of providing inclusive payment method, but also help airlines to manage their liquidity well, so that you reduce the overall financing cost. The third and the last one is that how are we really enhancing customer experience, and while doing that, are we leveraging the new age technologies? So for example, the Gen AI, to see that we are leveraging that for streamlining our operations, maybe to use it as a virtual assistant to answer some of the questions that we see repeatedly on a payments front, and even beyond that, right? And also, how can you use Gen AI and other technologies to predict some of the future things like the expectations and forecasts? So while we hear a lot of things from different industries, airlines and so on, I think if we have to really put it in a nutshell, I would say that as an airline, you need to think and see if you are able to if you have really some answers on these 3 questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Priyanka. I'd like to ask Keith and Kai basically the following question. I assume that I'm an airline that has not started the journey that you guys are on. I can feel very overwhelmed, right? So what would be your recommendation to me about, where can I start my journey? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure, maybe I'll start then. You're right. It's a daunting task if you think about where the end point of where you need to get to. But there are a couple of things you can do to get started. I would say first and foremost, bring the teams that are responsible for distribution and for payments as close together as you can in your organization. Ideally, like if you can, what we've done at Air Canada is we've put distribution and payments together in the same team. What you're contemplating here is you're trying to optimize and bring efficiency and modern retailing technologies into how your customers experience and buy your product. That involves the distribution of it, but it also involves the settlement and the payment of it. It is one holistic experience for your customer. It should be as close as possible, ideally in the same team inside your company. I would say 2, identify all the stakeholders in your company that payments touches and make sure they are involved from the very beginning. Payments touches your legal team in some respects, your tax team, your revenue accounting team, your finance team, your digital, your e-commerce team, your distribution and your payments team. Make sure that the strategies that you're putting in place, the changes that you're contemplating, can be supported by all of these various stakeholders and systems inside your company. And maybe 3, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, if NDC and modern retailing is truly going to be at some point a global experience for your airline, make sure that you, to the extent that you don't have local market expertise in any countries that you are going to now be distributing in directly, make sure you understand and benchmark the needs of those local markets so that you can build it into your technology roadmap and your strategy.
Okay, so it's first and foremost a human adventure, right? It's about getting people together, getting brains together, and then technology somehow follows. But it's making a plan, making bond between teams, right? There's no technology silver bullet, unfortunately. Guy, if you want to expand on that.
Actually, I think so. If you have not yet started, get your head around the why. And you can either start with the risk. I think it was somehow mentioned by Priyanka. So the risk is you might be disintermediated and you might lose the customer and control. And in the end, you just are paying the bill. That's number 1. Or you go with the opportunity, and the opportunity is maybe even drive or go away from a profit center management approach for payment, for example, towards a profit-centric approach. And Keith mentioned it, be it revenue opportunities, conversion, be it additional income that you might generate, or just lower cost. So there are a lot of opportunities. So either you start from the one hand side or the other. And of course, don't forget the customer experience. So you might in the end up with more happy customers, might also be a windfall here, which is valid going for. So the why. And then I'm fully with Keith. I think it's super important. Be it distribution, you need to have, let's say, the commercial view of things plus the digital or the IT, the technological view. You need, there shouldn't be any silos. So like business tells IT what to do, etc. So this has to be one team out of one hand. And if you add payment, you need to integrate finance into this team. That's why Lufthansa Group, we feel so well prepared here, because we have this trilateral setup. And all the other stakeholders, then of course you need to manage them in a collaborative approach. And this is what I heard also, not only from Air Canada, from other airlines who are or who feel well prepared in this journey, that they have all integrated those overarching processes. So that's really key.
Basically, you almost create a positive wheel, right? That is self-reinforcing, because you have a team that works on a plan, makes a happier customer. So you generate more value for you and your customer, which attracts talent and so on. So basically, it's a wheel that has a really a positive spin and gets on giving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Priyanka, if I can ask you, since with McKinsey you look at many sectors, can you tell us what we could borrow in the airline industry from other sectors and also implement if you want, whatever it can be, customer experience. So can you tell us a bit from what you've seen at McKinsey, what we would benefit from adopting in the airline sector?
Yeah, sure. I think I'd like to make 2 comparisons here. One comparison I would make with the hotel industry, which is really comparable from the industry standpoint, given it has like same sort of traveler, same ticket size value, a lot of international transactions which are happening. One thing which I feel really stands out well in hotel industry is their loyalty. Right, the loyalty points, the chains that we have, the way they have really, strategized on the loyalty points to make sure that the customers are loyal. They use the loyalty whenever and wherever they travel in the world. I think that's something. I think in airlines we do see a notch up over the last few years, but there is still a way to go further. Is what I would see, in a comparison from a similar industry. The second industry I would compare is more in terms of marketplace and e-commerce, right? One thing that we have been saying in this entire webinar and otherwise as well, that we need to make sure that we are able to provide a very great customer experience. And I said, as I said earlier, that in terms of, there are a lot of changes and things that are emerging, like the refunds, the claims and all, where customers are facing challenges in airlines. So if we look at e-commerce and marketplaces, their customer experience in terms of payment journey is top class, right? They provide all-inclusive payment methods, refunds, and everything is very instant. So that's one thing I think that airlines can actually learn from how these people have really done that. And I think when we look at even technology from the payments perspective, airlines and e-commerce and marketplaces are not just a learning lesson for airlines, but for all verticals. So these two industries, I would say, is where airlines can actually look at and maybe take some learnings.
And if I also pick on one of the points that Keith mentioned is that you would like to make a payment invisible, right? So typically, I think there's some great lessons from the ride sharing, being Uber or the different brands that exist around the world, where I mean, we have all used that, and you don't even think about payment because it's embedded in the experience and it's just happening, right? And you are more focused on the purpose of the service, which is your journey.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So I'm looking at the production team since we have 2-3 minutes left. We are going to see if we can take a question. Okay. Okay. So apparently we have addressed throughout the presentation the questions. So probably if I can, so we're going to wrap up. And if I can ask you just a word of of conclusion, maybe we start with Priyanka.
I think, as I said at the very beginning, payments is not easy. There are a lot of things that can be done. It has a cost, but if it can be done properly, if it's done properly, it can really provide a lot of value. And as we have discussed in the webinar, right? There are a lot of things to be done. So don't think that you are behind from any others. We know there is an opportunity. It's like how you strategize and capture that opportunity over the next few years is going to be critical.
Thank you. So go on the journey and you will learn a lot. Kai?
Yes, I think for me are two key topics. Number one, on the customer experience, you will be able, if you manage payment properly, to offer an integrated experience with the customer, enabling you to keep the customer base, or let's say build another additional loyalty lifecycle even with your customers if you manage this well, and are able to play out new payment offers to your customers and manage also the commercial challenges that you have here. And second, I guess payment will be, especially for NDC, will be the next lever or the next step to really make NDC successful also in the corporate environment. If we combine now, let's say, coming from the distribution bottleneck that we have broken successfully, also breaking now the corporate bottleneck that we see here with NDC. So just the combination of NDC or distribution and payment will make the difference the next years.
Thank you very much. And Keith?
I would say we need to stop as an industry thinking about product and distribution and payment as separate objectives and separate experiences, because our customers do not perceive them that way. I'm a digital immigrant. My kids are digital natives. I've seen them get stuck in frustrating online e-commerce checkout experiences, and they're not mad at the payment people. They're mad at the brand, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's one team, right, that is behind. Yeah. So thank you very much, and for the audience, we hope you find that helpful, useful. Don't hesitate to leave us some comments, and I'd like to a big thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and maybe we can do a follow-up in some time and see how we will have progressed. Thank you very much, and wish you a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.